Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the stream. This is episode 2 of the High Castle Show. We'll be discussing all things Company of Heroes 3 related. Today we've got a special guest, which is Currahee. He's decided to join us, which is awesome. So thank you very much, Currahee, for taking the time.
Hey.
We've also got Elpern.
Yo.
And Angry Dutchman again.
Hello, guys.
Right. Let's begin. What are your guys' top 3 things you're most excited for Company of Heroes 3 going forward? Let's start with Currahee.
The 3 most excited things. First of all, it's a Company of Heroes game. I mean, one of the best game franchises in the world, I would say. I'm very excited to see how the game will develop, of course, in a competitive way. And the third, I'm very excited for my fun 4v4 games with my friends Stuffman, Teddy, and all those people. Those are the 3 things I'm looking forward to.
Nice. And Elpern?
Well, it's a new game, so new factions, new units, and new players. Foremost, I think it's gonna be cool. Not having to face Mirasol 10 times in a row. So I'm looking forward to that.
Indeed, yeah. It's exciting to see that as we're having 4 factions are released, we're getting straight into it rather than when KO2 just released it was just the same Soviet versus Austria all the time. So now we're getting lots of diversity straight away from the off, which is for me personally is one of the most exciting things. How about yourself, Angry Dutchman?
Cool, Oh yeah.
I'm excited to play the Italian single player. Just want to see how the completed single player campaign actually feels, if it plays as well as I hope it does. Excited to play with all the light vehicles that are in the game. I think the light vehicle choice that they made in Company of Heroes 3 is really good. So those are very exciting for me to play. And always my fan favorite, the Flak 88, just dropping it somewhere in the 1v1, like it's nobody's business. I'm just gonna place it anyway.
Right outside their base.
That's what I'm excited for.
That'd be interesting. I want to see someone do a Flak 88 base kill. That'd be kind of fun. Sorry, Albert, I cut you off then at the end. What were you gonna finish off saying?
I already forgot, so let's move on. I had something on the tongue. It's fine.
Sorry.
We're going to be talking a lot.
Yeah, we got lots of things. Right, so on to our first topic then. So, we've all played the recent multiplayer beta. What did we make of it? Let's go and start with, for instance, let's discuss, Relic has made a response video to the beta. A lot of people did give negative reviews and thoughts about the game, saying it still looked cartoony, the graphics are bad, the audio doesn't sound great. What's your thoughts and feelings about that, guys? Does anyone want to start on that?
I would say graphics is a completely subjective thing. I looked at the game and I don't think that it is cartoony. It's not a super high jump to KO2. I think this is the biggest problem a lot of people have. And I think that the expectations there were too high from I would say from a lot of people in the community. I think the game looks good. I think the animation looks okay. From an RTS point of view, I think it's fine.
I think graphics-wise, I also don't think that the game looks cartoony. I think in general it looks actually pretty good. I've played it a lot in the beta, so maybe I also got used to this look already. So maybe that's also just something people need to get used to. Personally, I really like the fact that there's a lot more bright colors. It just makes the game come alive a little bit more than the dark and the grayish of KO1 and KO2. One thing I do have an issue is that sometimes the models blend in with the background they're standing on. So you can't really properly distinguish model from underground. And I think that's something they do need to work on.
For sure. I agree with that last bit. Visually, I think it looks appealing, but it's the readability can be hard at times. And I don't know if that's because it's a new game and we're kind of used to the graphics more in KO2. But readability is certainly a bit tougher than you would want, I think.
Yeah, well, for me...
What do you think, Hans?
Yeah, well, I think I'm personally fine with the graphics, to be honest, as well. And I've seen that the Relic have addressed The fact that they go, you probably saw that feedback video where they had before and after images, and it did look a lot better with some of the improvements made. But at the same time, that's great that those improvements are coming. But I feel like first impressions matter a hell of a lot, and I'm worried that a lot of people, have probably played the game on on that weekend, the free to play beta, to try it out.
Yeah, it was like 150k, I think.
Yeah, it was a lot of people that tried it out, and that's 150k. I don't know, and a lot of them are going to be new eyeballs on the franchise, never played it before. They're probably going to see it and think, well, and due to the graphics and especially because of the lack of audio as well, I definitely feel like the audio needed a lot better. There's a lot of things going wrong with the audio, like Tiger Tank didn't feel any presence at all, things like that.
What kind of things in the audio you did not like?
So, did you not hear the Tiger Tank? So, if you I had a clip of a gameplay session in my recent beta review video, and you couldn't hear the engines of the Tigers or the Opel Blitz truck that was coming in to drop off a vehicle. You couldn't hear the engines of that. They sounded really muted and so that wasn't great. But then on the flip side of that, there was some really good audio sounds, which I heard the pinging of rounds off the off armor on the tanks, and that sounded really impressive, which I hadn't heard before in a Company Heroes game. So that was really good. But yeah, I think I'm hoping Relic are going to address all that. But like I say, yeah, first impressions matter a lot, and I feel like I worried that it's really negatively impacted. Will negatively impact the game's launch. I guess we'll have to see what happens with the sales, how many people pick it up, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, what do you feel about the things that Relic did not address in their video? Because they only discussed really the graphics and the audio. That's what they're working on. They didn't talk about other mechanics. For instance, like crushing. Like one thing I noticed in the beta, and I don't know if you guys noticed that as well, was there's no crushing at the moment. You can't drive a vehicle into a blob of infantry and kill them like you normally would in the previous Company Heroes game. So, what's your thoughts on crushing? Is it do you like the mechanic? Is it are you happy that it's been maybe removed? Because personally, I'm kind of very disappointed it's not currently in the game.
I can't recall. Have they publicly mentioned anything about crushing? Because we're under NDAs. We can't really...
I don't believe so. Not to my knowledge anyway. So, yeah, I have no idea. But, what would you...
Ist es voll im Bild gewesen. Jetzt schauen 100 Leute zu. Mach jetzt schnell, bitte.
Oh,
Die Kamera kurz ausgeschaltet.
Oh.
Ja, gut, wenn es das nicht stimmt.
We've been infiltrated by the Germans.
Oh no, what's going on now?
Sorry. I thought I muted myself.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Personally, I really always liked crushing because it was it was a little gimmicky how it worked in Company Heroes 2 because you had to push units into a wall or into a tree, but it's still it's a little micro trick, and I think to separate pro level from expert level, you need these kind of micro tricks in there to elevate the depth of mechanics that are in the game.
Sure.
So I personally dislike that it's not wasn't in the current build.
Yeah, it was like you mentioned, it is a bit cheesy because I don't know, things the Wolverine, for instance, in Code 2, it's not supposed to be, or the M10.
True, yeah.
It's very strong versus infantry, which is probably not intended game design. That makes crushing a bit difficult. But also, like Dutchman, mentioned, you could expand the system, make it a bit more consistent, perhaps, and actually make it a bit more gameplay. So that's something they definitely should look at, I think, because it's such a loved mechanic from the previous games.
I did a poll when I was playing the beta recently last month. I did a poll in the chat, and over 70% of people said that they want crushing in the game. So I think the community want that feature to return. And I feel like it's a high risk, high reward strategy as well. You're rushing your vehicle really far forward to crush those units. You run the risk of getting snared, and then your vehicle, as soon as it's snared or whatever, it becomes. They can't practically crush anymore, right? So then it's like a sitting duck and probably could get finished off by tanks. It's
satisfying as well, right?
Yeah, it's really, I was saying, it's so satisfying, crushing. It's great for an audience watching it as well because it's a cool moment. It's, it's great for Twitch viewing, for tournaments or whatever, if that happens. So yeah, it's a shame that we've not seen crushing make an appearance in the beta. We still got, maybe it might be finally implemented, but who knows?
I have a question though, which interests me. So I'm here the point of view from tournament organizer perspective, you guys are all competitive players. Is crushing something that should be in a competitive game a thing or not a thing?
It depends on the implementation for sure. But
Like
from
the
like
M10, like the M10 crashing
Yeah.
in Code 2, that was like so strong that Von
Hmm.
Ivan made a tactic basically out of this.
yeah, but
An
it's like
M10, an anti-tank destroyer killing infantry is kind of stupid. to
that's
imagine.
like kind of a separate issue because then we're talking balance, right? If a vehicle
Yeah.
is really strong at crushing, then maybe it should just be a tiny bit more expensive, for instance, and then it's like it's okay, right? So I think that's more of a balance discussion. But from a gameplay point of view, I think the fact that it's so satisfying, like it's quick dopamine, and it's not something you usually have in an RTS, right? So I think it's from that point of view, I think it's such a cool mechanic.
Okay.
It punishes blobbers as well, I find, because blobbing is an easy mechanic that most people do. You know, if they're not very good at the game, they just aim move an entire ball of units and win like that, and that's very low skill. So if you manage to pull off, with one vehicle come around and crush them all, it forces them to play differently, to stop using kind of maybe a cheese tactic. You could argue that maybe crushing's a bit cheesy as well, but that's just my 2 cents on it. And I was also going to think.
The only issue I see.
Go ahead.
The only issue I see is that with the change in snare values and snare thresholds, that a vehicle that comes for a crush is a bit harder to stop.
That's
like
true for
in
Code 3.
2, at least after one shot, you would get a really good snare off. But in Code 3, one shot on a snare is not always enough.
That's true. One thing I would like to, continuing on the subject of like maybe melee vehicle kills, is if you remember back in Code 1, you had the Sherman crab flail thing, which is like a minesweeper, and people could activate that to also like shred up infantry, which is quite of a cool thing. It would make the vehicle very lot slower, but it was still a very cool kind of like kind of mechanic. And it's a shame we've kind of not really seen something like that make a return for Code 3. Did you guys ever experience that unit in Code 1?
I played with it, but
I can't recall the specifics, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yes.
Long time, yeah. It was a very long time
More
ago.
than 10 years or something. Yeah.
But yeah, that was you never really saw that in competitive play, to be fair, because it was just a very slow. We had a long wind up times before the flail started going, but it was really cool to see. It was also adding the mechanic of clearing mines as well. A tank could actually clear mines with that flail, which is nice, and that's never seen a return in the Co franchise since Co 1. Okay, so let's move on then. If you let's see what we've got next.
Well, in Code 2, the Sherman had the bulldozer Sherman, so it gives you an armor buff, I think. But it's not the
But I don't think the bulldozer in either in Co 1 or Co 2 like gave it extra infantry killing power in terms of melee. Like if you drove it into it, I don't think so. No.
I know. But it gives an armor buff.
Okay. Are there any other mechanics? I think what you guys wanted to talk about auto vaulting. What's your thoughts on auto vaulting now? Because personally, initially, I wasn't a massive fan of it. Now it's not so bad, I guess. It's just for me, I think it's all about like units accidentally vaulting over something when you want to put a unit in cover and they just auto vault it. Whereas before in Code 2, you actually had to hover over the piece of cover, then right-click it to initiate that action. What's your experience with auto vaulting when you've been playing in the beta recently? How are you finding it?
Who's starting? Dutchman?
I could start. Yeah, that's fine. Auto vaulting, I personally had very limited issues with it. I think as well on retreat, it's nice. It's a new way of thinking on where are the units going to retreat to, how can I intercept them on the retreat path. Moving units on the field is a lot easier. The only little issue that arises is when you want the units to go into cover. If you misclick, then they might fold over. But this does require a misclick, so I think in the end it's very often just the user input fault. So I had that a couple times as well, where I would try to readjust the cover, but I clicked beyond the cover instead of behind the cover, and they vaulted. But I didn't really find the game mechanic not working as intended. It was just you need to get used to it, and you need to be very precise with your clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was one of those that hated the mechanic from the start. But now I've actually grown to love it. I'm the complete opposite now. And I think like the misclicking, like during the text test, I feel like I was misclicking less than I even did in Code 2 when it comes to vaulting. And I think just as a micro tax savior, it's quite big because this means like new players and less competitive players, they can kind of focus on the game a bit more because they're not that micro focused perhaps. So I think that makes it like it pulls the competitive players and the more casual focused players. It draws those two groups closer together, right?
Mm. Do you feel like it lowers the skill ceiling a little bit though? Does it make it too easy?
If you consider micro tax a skill ceiling, then yes. But other than that, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, also with the auto reinforcement, I think that's one of those cases where it's made the gameplay a lot easier. You can say that's also a skill ceiling thing, but I think overall, I'm really a fan of the auto reinforcement thing because you can toggle it on or off. So it's best of both worlds there. So if you want to save up for that expensive tank, you can just toggle it off and maybe get that tank out to give you the edge. But it's nice just to be able to go back to your base and have your units already reinforcing straight away, so you haven't got to, go back and constantly spam the F button or whatever, or the R button, whatever hotkey you've selected to reinforce your units. So I'm a massive fan of the auto reinforce mechanic now.
So the auto reinforcing and everything is now that you can toggle it off and on. Because I thought that it's not yet. Okay,
auto reinforced, not auto vault. Auto vault you can't toggle.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure, and I think everybody agrees on that they added that because of the console launch. Isn't that obvious? Or what do you guys think?
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Well, it also just makes it easier for new players.
Yeah, okay.
And for old players.
As long as you can switch it on, switch it off, I think everything of those things are great.
Yeah.
Because then you can just adapt to it, and I think that's absolutely it's a great improvement, definitely, 100%.
It's streamlining those areas that are very difficult for new players to adapt to. I think, like vaulting in any other game than Code 2, like any other RTS. Is there vaulting in AoE in StarCraft? Is there reinforcing in those games? No, these are mechanics that are unique to Code. And having those things automated and streamlined means you get closer to those crowds as well. So I think they are really important changes for getting more players in.
Yes,
making it more available.
Orange Press says there's vaulting in StarCraft, noob. It's called a Reaper.
Oh my god! Okay.
That's not really vaulting. That's like jetpacking up to another level. But okay.
He always just disagrees with me for the sake of disagreeing.
I know.
Bad love the sweet.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so any other mechanics you guys want to discuss while we're on the subject of mechanics?
Yes. I wanted to bring up time to kill because that was not something that was listed, and it's very different in Code 2. So I don't know if you guys experienced it, but if we take a round, Hans, what did you think about the time to kill? Because it's definitely longer than it is in Code 2.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, time to kill was longer. I feel like that's going to probably, buff the infantry game up a lot because it'll take longer to kill those squads with AT rifles so they can do more damage and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, I found it was okay. I didn't find it glaringly obvious in any direction if it felt like it was bad on gameplay, personally. I don't know if you guys felt that.
I think that they have to change that. I think the infantry has to die a little bit faster, and I think flamethrowers are too strong at the beginning. I would say they should nerf that a bit. But yeah, I mean, of course, the gameplay is directed more to infantry fighting and light vehicles and stuff. But I still think that they should adjust it a little bit.
Yeah, so
in my opinion,
I think it's the small arms time to kill that's very long, in my experience during the tech test at least. And when you have flamethrowers, you have snipers, you have mortars and explosions, you have those planes, those don't seem to suffer the same nerf as the small arms time to kill, which makes them seem even more stronger than they were in Code 2, even though they might be the same. So I think it really makes those units a lot stronger. But also close corner units in Code 2, if you charge a unit in a sandbag like a grenadier, you're taking quite a bit of damage approaching that sandbag. But that wasn't really the case in Code 3. Even the UK Royal Engineers can easily reach your unit in green cover without taking any casualties. So, that makes all the close corner units a lot stronger. So I think it's a difficult issue because it's so complicated, right?
Yeah, true. But though things
for me personally, I also really felt that, like, especially if you have like low DPS squads fighting each other, like at the start, a grenadier versus an infantry section at medium range, like those fights could take 2 to 3 minutes before they would be done, and I really think that's way too long for an RTS.
Yeah, I don't think it's like bad per se, because it does make it more like it's more tactical, more positional, because you can like improve the positions without taking too much damage. But still, it's like they either need to buff the small arms or tune the other things down, such as flamethrowers, because they are doing too much damage, I think. But that's
Yeah, but
also just balance. So.
to add upon that, also the tank to tank fighting was for me very. Yeah, it's no longer 4 shots; it's more like 5 or 6 shots. And I think in one game we played versus each other, Elpern. I think we both had 3 or 4 tanks, and none of those tanks were dying because we could just easily pull them back, repair them up, start shooting at each other again.
Wait,
I
did
think
we play each other during the tech test? I can't recall.
I think we did.
Oh, okay.
Maybe an earlier game
Oh,
would
I
also
see.
be there. But I think also that the time to kill there is very low. The time to kill from like tank to infantry or indeed mortar to infantry is that all seems balanced. But for me, the tank to tank fights and the infantry to infantry fights seem a little bit off.
Well, I imagine all these things, though, once the games have been out for a month, there'll be a lot of testing done by then. We'll all know what needs changing. I mean, we all know that, for instance, a lot of the plane strafes, some were really overpowered, some took way too long to come onto, and that's just a couple of values that need changing there to like maybe increase the length of time it takes for a strafe to come on, or decrease it. So there's quite a few like quick, easy changes to balance. That can be done. But yeah, the time to kill, I think it's going to need a lot of testing to get a really nice balance. And I imagine we don't all expect this to be perfect on launch. It will take maybe quite a few months to get everything right. But that's the case with every RTS game, right? Nothing's going to be great on launch. Especially now we have 4 factions instead of 2, which makes it even harder to balance because all those other units to change all those values and stuff. I mean. What do you guys think about actually the faction rosters for each faction? Are you happy with all the factions? Do you feel like they've got a nice amount of diversity, or are they lacking things in certain areas? What do you guys think? Let's start with you, Currahee. What do you think?
Well, the last stream, or I don't think it was maybe I don't know. The Brits definitely need a tank destroyer. I think a lot of people agree on this, because that's one of their big weakness. Americans don't have any real artillery. I mean, they have this. It's not a Calliope, but it's like a different name.
Yeah, whiz bang. Yeah, it's called a whiz bang.
Yeah, the whiz bang. I think that has to be a little bit buffed. I didn't. I have to admit, I did not play Duck for a long time, so I don't really much about this faction. Wehrmacht was pretty very strong. I like that faction a lot. USF are definitely, I would say, the 2 strongest faction, and the British, are a good faction as well. But I think they lack the tank destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing that we have 4 factions. I think that's a good thing, because you can then just play around with a lot of tactics and stuff. But I think USF and Wehrmacht are definitely the 2 factions that everybody's gonna play at the beginning, at least in tournaments or show matches or anything.
Okay.
I really like the new the 5th element of every faction, where you have like DAC has the armory, the US has the support centers. It makes like every faction is its own Swiss knife kind of, because you can like kind of tech into your different things no matter what battle group you pick. I think that's really cool. Like the Verd, you have the offices, right? Which means you can like double down on any of your tech trees, which I think is like super cool. But one thing I really dislike, like you mentioned, there's no tank destroyer for UK, but there's also no sniper for neither DAC nor UK.
Yeah.
Like, haven't we been over this already?
Do we all think? So, do you guys think that every faction should have a sniper? Is that what we all think?
Yeah, like you can have like UK, in Code 2, it's very different sniper, but it's still a sniper, right? You can have like different snipers that are still snipers. So I don't know. It's probably not going to be an issue on launch, I don't think, but like 3 years from now, it's like it's gonna be the same thing over again. I feel like, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you
I
there.
definitely think like every faction needs some MG, Mortar, AT gun, and if you give factions a sniper, then every faction needs a sniper. I think that the basic things need to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was playing some Company Heroes 2 yesterday or whatever, and playing as the Brits, and it sucks playing as the Brits because for the first 2 to 3 minutes, there's no way you can get a counter sniper out in that time. So the Austere sniper's got free range just to pick away at your infantry sections, and that's just an unfair,
it just
advantage.
Feels bad, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. It feels like you're going to be at a disadvantage straight away. You might have the UC, but universal carrier, but then all the Austere player needs to do is just keep a gren near their sniper to faust if it comes near. So it's very hard for Brits to to overcome, especially like in a 1v1 in that early situation against the sniper. And I feel like every faction should get a sniper and stuff. Like Dutchman was saying, you need the engineer with the flamethrower, being able to repair, put down sandbags, barbed wire. Also, I think we should also bring back I like the British separate light explosive ability, which can clear obstacles and stuff. I feel like that's an ability that maybe other factions should all get, because it's just nice to be able to clear hedgerows. Allow yourself to open up different pathways to play on a map. And I feel like in Code 2 only Brits really had that, whereas other factions didn't. I guess Code 3 you've got the American Bazooka Squad, which has a rocket that you can fire off, which will clear a bit of terrain, and which is quite nice. But I don't know if any of the other factions do, unless they use satchel charges or expensive explosives in terms of munitions costs. What do you guys think about that?
Who's starting? Dutchman?
You always let me start.
All right, Currahee. Or Hans, maybe. Hans, you can start.
Hans, you start first.
Yeah.
Well, I just did.
He already gave his opinion.
I gave my opinion.
He just explained the issue. He didn't say what.
Well, I want it. Yeah, I want it. I would love to see
Okay.
every faction, every engineer squad, or some kind of variant unit that has it non-doctrinally in their roster, which can clear, like a hedgerow or something like that, or a wall. I think every faction should get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, personally, I don't think you need it. I mean, if there's already demos on the film and satchels or big cabin bombs that do a decent amount of damage, and as long as each faction has like something of that, it's fine. And I think it's also good if there's vehicles that crush certain hedges to clear up paths. And I think that there's plenty of that in the game. I haven't really noticed it missing something.
I think at least what I really have to say is what definitely is better in Code 3, because it's not like, can you guys remember launch OKW? With like less fuel, less munition income, but
time the SWS.
It's stuff like that,
Yeah.
I mean, I really disagree with people like saying like, oh, Code 2 is so much better than Code 3, because I really have to say, look at the launch of Code 2 and look how bad decisions they made at that time.
But also, you have to Code 3 is competing with today's Code 2. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's the problem.
They need to be better than.
Yeah, it needs to be better at launch. We can't just excuse the fact that Code 2's launch was bad so that Code 3's launch can be bad. Like, because
Code 2 is not in its launch state anymore. Code 3 is going to be competing with today's Code 2. So that's why they're doing 4 factions, I presume, because they're competing with Code 2. So who knows? Maybe Code 4 will have 10 factions at launch or something. We'll see.
God, imagine that! Holy crap! Oh yeah, and back to what we were discussing about the Brits, for instance, not having a tank destroyer. I agree. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all know that the Archer was in the alpha build for the Brits, as well as the Valentine. If you remember that, I remember going back because I was like, I swear there was a tank destroyer. And yeah, I went back to one of my old videos and saw that there was the Archer and the Valentine. I imagine they're probably saving them for a future battle group, as we also, you might have seen the Nashorn as well was featured in a recent picture that Relic showed, which is obviously
how do you pronounce it? Nashorn.
Nashorn. I probably would say it Nashorn.
No. Nashorns.
Nashorns. Is that how you say it? Nashorns.
Yes.
Nashorns.
Yes, Nashorn. Yeah, Nashorn.
Nashorn. Yeah. So yeah, Nashorn is not in the standard loadout for the Wehrmacht, but it probably will be like a tank destroyer battle group.
there is some infantry as well missing that's been revealed in the trailers.
Oh yeah, what did you notice?
Keen
Because
eye,
that's
but
news to me.
Wasn't in the game. I just heard Imperial Dane talk about this.
Right, okay.
He has a keen eye for details. But I think in the... don't know if it was the Ver or the Dak, but it was some Germans missing.
Yeah, I've got, for those in chat who haven't seen it, I've made sure to take a picture of this. Let me just switch over to this scene here.
I personally didn't feel that there was a tank destroyer missing in the Brits, but in 1v1, I didn't feel the need to get a tank destroyer out.
Yeah, in 1v1 it's maybe not that bad, but in team games it's really bad. Like
I think long term as well, you know.
You just go double Panther or whatever, and Brits have nothing really because the 17-pounder is so easily to get destroyed by rocket artillery. They need some tank destroyer thing.
That's the NAS horn on the screen there.
Yeah, it was the NAS horn. Yeah, so I looked at it and thought, hang on, is that not the was it the Wesp?
It's basically an elephant.
But no, so I look at the gun.
Basically an elephant. But...
Go ahead, Currahee. It's basically an elephant, but
no, the gun is like it's like an 88mm gun, so it's like no, it's more than a Tiger from the profile. So it's more than a Tiger, but in the end, it's yeah, it's a heavy tank destroyer, but lighter armor. So hopefully,
nice. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, but I want to ask you. Sorry, one second. But if they add it into a battle group, in my opinion, that's a mistake as well, because I think that the archer should be a non-doctrinal or non-battle group unit, in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree.
One of the tank. Yeah, get the Matilda out. Like, in my opinion, why do the Brits have the Matilda and the Churchill? Oh no, sorry, my mistake. I would say Matilda out and Archer in. What do you guys think?
I would agree with that because I feel like the British rely too heavily on like the 6-pounder and also their 17-pounder now, and that's really their only real form of proper tank destroyer in late game against like something like a Tiger. The M3 Lee does penetrate a Tiger, from the front occasionally, and will do some, maybe do like 20% damage or whatever. But still, it's like it's not it needs to get within. The Tiger can return fire at the M3, and the M3 can't outrange it. So I definitely feel like we should get the Archer or at least the Firefly back in for the Brits as their tank destroyer. I feel like every faction should have a tank destroyer. And it could be a glass cannon tank destroyer, like I guess the Marder 3 that both Wehrmacht and Dak have now. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think they need a tank destroyer, and I would also say, like I said earlier about every faction needing a sniper. Though, what do we think about the call-in meta now, especially for Dak? Dak really heavily focuses on call-ins. With you get your 250 half track or whatever out, and it's got you're pulling an LEIG or a pack gun, or it's got Panzer Jaeger squad in, or assault Grens or something like that. I kind of like it because it gives you a lot of flexibility, but at the same time, I'm not sure how balanced that is. What do we think?
Now maybe they need to make it a little bit more expensive, but then again, your standard deck infantry, which you are building, does cost the 300 manpower, so you're already paying a heavier price at the start of the game. So maybe a little bit of tweaking, but I think it balances it out. So I'm not really against that call in at all. And it's not like the vehicle does a huge amount of damage. So for me, in 1v1s at least, it was pretty easily dealt with as the allies.
I agree on only one point. I would say the Tiger should not be a call-in. Or at least, the Tiger is. I mean, the Tigers are call-in Wehrmacht as well. But like, I think you don't have to build any buildings, if I'm not wrong.
Dak needs every building.
Yeah, you need every
building.
Every building, but you don't need fuel. But you don't. Sorry?
Yes.
And yet you only need 900 manpower. So if you have all the buildings, it's only 900 manpower.
I think that's a mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
It reminds me of the double Panther call-in from the Panzer Elite in Co 1.
Yeah,
that was, in my opinion,
it's exactly the same tech pattern as well. You have to, like in Panzer Elite, you had to build 4 buildings, then click on your HQ, and then upgrade the final tech, and then you could call in the Tiger. But at least with Dak now, when you do the final upgrade, it changes the other call-ins as well to like Panzer 3 is a flamethrower, Panzer 3, and then I think the Tiger as well. I'm kind of personally not massively keen on that. I guess it's like you're forced to tech up to get the Tiger, but then you lose the ability to call in cheaper units because you might want to call in another 250 with an anti-tank gun, you know, rather than call in a Panzer III at the moment. And if you go for that tech, you kind of lock yourself out of that. What do you guys think of that? Is that a good idea?
That's good. Everything needs to be a trade-off, and this is a nice trade-off that they made. So you get better stuff, but you lose the other stuff. So I think that's actually really good.
I think as long as they keep it from being or feeling gimmicky, I think they've pulled it off. Like the deck in general, like their call-ins that's tied to tech, I don't think was as bad as some of the other call-ins, but those are battle groups, of course. And I think I think the battle group call-ins needs to be tied to tech, but that's like we've been talking about that before, I think.
Right.
But I also dislike how inconsistent it was in the tech test, because you had like the EC8, which was like impossible to get, but then you also had the Italian battle group, I think it was, had the flame tank for DAC, so you could like go 3-4 light vehicles and then get a medium anyway, like on really good timing and stuff like that. I don't know, it muddies the game phases, right? You don't really have an early, mid game and late game anymore because you can kind of get those vehicles whenever, and I think that's bad. You don't really have those phases anymore. Makes it really hard to I don't know, in general, long term.
Is the Panther more of a tank destroyer, or is it like
it's both? Like, it's more of a heavy medium.
Medium tank, yeah.
So
then
the Panther.
in my opinion, that is an issue. The Panther in
Code
3.
It felt like it killed infantry quite lot more reliably in Code 3 than in any previous game. So the Panthers was actually a good, like better all round. It felt like a Panzer IV, but a lot better. It obviously can take a lot more punishment.
No, in my opinion.
Tank destroyers and Zooks also actually did quite reliable infantry damage, as long as the squads they were shooting at were like clumped up or in cover.
Right.
So there is like less specialization for the vehicles in Code 3, as I've noticed. But
one thing I was a bit unhappy about was the fact that the Panzer Jaegers were only tied to the call-in tech. I kind of want them to be able you could build them manually from a tech structure, because you don't maybe always want them with a 250, and then you know later on they're too expensive to call in with a tank if you go for that upgrade. Because I don't think, other than that was the AT rifle was the only kind of did they have Shreks at all? The DAC? I don't recall them having Panzer Shreks, unless anyone in chat played. But I personally don't remember them ever having Shreks. They only had access to the AT rifle.
Unit, but I can't remember. No.
Yeah, no, they don't have Shreks.
Yeah, so they only have.
I also think like, since that's the only way you can get them, right? They're pretty much always going to be picked. Like the other options, since you can get them from the tech, you know, they kind of get outcompeted.
Yeah, and I feel like.
What do you guys think of the? Sorry.
Go ahead, Gary. I know that's right.
What do you think of the elite infantry in Code 3? Is it like elite, or is it? What's
like the new Opel Soldaten type guys that the Ostig, the Wehrmacht
get? The Gurkhas, the Brits, the Commandos, the Brits, Americans.
Yeah, the Americans they're called SSF, aren't they? Commandos or something.
Yeah,
do you guys feel that they are really making a difference?
Well, definitely the Gustatory. They're frankly just OP, straight up OP with their double flamethrower at the moment. Obviously needs nerfing, and they also have got great utility because they can repair they're one of the best repairing units for the DAC as well. And I think they can put down mines and demolition charges or something like that. So that Gustatory, just great all round unit. And the 6 men as well, so they've got good survivability. The other ones, I guess the SSF Commandos, personally, the fact that they can switch on the fly between anti-infantry and bazookas, I think it might be a bit. It's fun to do that, but I'm not sure if that's balanced, because it seems like they got too much utility there with being able to just be jack of all trades and to switch around like that. So I don't know. What do you think, Elpern?
It's kind of funny playing versus people. No, I use the SSF quite a lot, and it's just so funny because during the tech test, people hadn't really played around with all of the units. They didn't know what they could do. It's kind of funny if you had like 2-3 squads of those, and then they just switched to Zooks, and you could kind of like one-shot a tank like that. It was kind of funny.
Surprising.
Yeah, because they didn't know. But of course, like I don't know. We'll see. Elite infantry being both anti-infantry and anti-tank has always been really strong. Like look at guards in Code 2, for instance.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's better if elite infantry is extremely specialized. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like they with a lot of units they went a bit overboard. Like in if you look at Code 2, if you look at the first factions, the Austere and the Soviet faction, you have like maybe 1, 2, perhaps 3 abilities, and in Code 3, like every unit has at least 3 abilities, and that's how you get like a lot of overpowerment really quickly. If you look at, for instance, the standard Zook squad from the USF. It has a sprint ability after Vet 1, and it gets a satchel as well. So it's like super good versus all vehicles. I think you see that with a lot of units, that there's just so many abilities, and often those abilities are also free of charge, so there's no downside to using them.
Was it a sticky satchel that they got?
Vet ones.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A lot of the Vet 1 for every unit has a ability, and almost all of those abilities that you get at Vet 1 are free with a very, very long time or cooldown, which I think is interesting, but in some regards. But like with the scouts or the pathfinders, you get the flares for free, which means if you have multiple, you can kind of be spamming flares all over the place. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's interesting, but also they might want to fine-tune which abilities to decide to be free, so you don't like spam them.
Yeah, balancing will be. We will have those balancing.
There's so much crazy stuff, So yeah. What do you think, Hans?
Yeah, I agree. I think I do like the fact that every unit has an ability, especially like with the Americans. You can because when they get Vet 1, they can choose between certain things, which gives you a lot of flexibility in the way you want to do certain things. Like I think you can straight away if you pick like the armor battle group, you can get the Jeep to Vet 1, which gives it immediately the ability to cap sectors right from the start of a match if you decide to do so, which is kind of nuts. And then, actually, what do you guys think about the Weasel and the Kettenkrad upgrades, allowing you to capture more resources as a permanent thing? I feel like for definitely, especially team games, that's super strong if you back cap with the Kettenkrad after it's upgraded, your territory. So you don't capture the territory right outside your base, because that normally never gets captured right in a match. So you wait and you get your pioneers to capture the VP or the normal strategic point, and then once the Kettenkrad's got the upgrade, you cap all the stuff around your base, and you've got a permanent, resource bonus compared to your opponents. I feel that's incredibly strong, and maybe a bit too OP. I don't know. What do you think about that? Did you like that mechanic? Because I thought it was good, but I don't know how you'd balance it.
I liked it, but I don't think opening units should have it. Like the Weasel was done way better than the Kettenkrad, because the Weasel needs Vet 1 in order to actually increase that. That's the Vet 1 ability of the Weasel. And I think that makes more sense, because then you can't do the save points like you mentioned. So if you wanted the save points, you would have to not capture them, and I think that's a decent balance-wise, right? You can't capture at the start, so starting units shouldn't have that ability at all, in my opinion, because like you mentioned, the Kettenkrad is actually insane because you can't capture those points as an enemy.
Yep. And Dutchman, what do you think?
Yeah, and for the Kettenkrad, you immediately start out with exactly the amount of munitions you need.
Yeah, exactly.
So either get all the munitions to 0, and then also let 2 or 3 minutes of game time need to pass before you can get the upgrade. But the way it is now, I think at least for the Kettenkrad, it comes too quickly.
Yeah, maybe it needs to get Vet 1 as well before you could do it. I think the Kettenkrad though, in when it was the Panzer Elite unit, it could lay booby traps, put down mines and things like that, but the Kettenkrad doesn't seem to have that same kind of utility now. It can go camouflage.
It has the spotting scopes, and I believe it also has a map hack ability, if I'm not wrong.
Is it?
I can't recall exactly.
Maybe I'm mistaken.
It at least has spotting scopes. It has spotting scopes, but I don't know about the map.
I think it shows stuff on the minimap.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with map hack, of course.
And not only does it show stuff on the minimap, but it also shows the circles in the Fog of War.
Oh yeah.
So the map hack got evolved from Code 2. Yeah.
I think that's a really good improvement, actually, that you actually see it in the Fog of War.
Like
Makes it easier for the new players as well.
Like that vehicle open that you were talking about and explained to me a while ago. That one where it you can do free mortar barrage or free smoke barrage, this little tractor vehicle.
Oh yeah,
and it also
tractor,
you can see in the fog of war exactly what type of unit it is. If it's like an infantry unit or if it's a tank that's coming at you, which is quite nice. What did you make of that? Because I know you were using that quite effectively during your matches.
Well, in the tech test, it was completely busted, but we'll see. It was, of course, bugged in the tech test. It has a Vet 1 ability where it changes mode, and the other mode has longer range, and you get like some advantages. But in the tech test, when you did that, it also reset all the cooldowns, so you could like spam artillery, which was kind of insane. But yeah, free smoke and free artillery. I think we've had free smoke in the past with the artillery officer, but free artillery I think might be a bit too much craziness. But again, we'll have to see with like how the pacing of the game is, you know.
Cool. Anyone else got anything else to add here about factions, calling metas, anything like that? You know, battle groups. Any battle group you liked, or did you like the variety of the battle groups for each faction? Do you think they all brought something, or is there a battle group you thought, hang on, why is that even there? It's kind of pointless. Why would I ever pick that?
I mean, there were a lot of cheese threats. There was a lot of ways to absolutely destroy your opponent. You had the assault engineers, the pathfinders, there's 2 call-ins. You could get a flamethrower panzer at like 3 CPs, or the whirlwind at 4 CPs. So yeah, there was a lot of abilities to do something busted, and to me, like, some of those abilities were blatantly busted, like, before you even had to try them out. So I personally, I don't know how some of these make it into a build like this. I wonder who designs this.
I think like as soon as there's an option between a call-in and an ability, that ability very often gets overlooked. And I think that means like there's a lot of things that people didn't test. Like for instance, booby traps, which Dak had access to. They were one-hitting squads, but they were like competing with like Bersaglieri or something. So no one ever used booby traps because everyone always just picked the Bersaglieri and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of things that people didn't try that were really strong during the tech test because like the call-ins, they just overshadow the abilities usually. Most people will just pick the cool tank or the cool infantry unit instead of like some boring ability, right? So yeah, I think they're interesting. I love the fact that you have to like pick and create your own commander, kind of.
Nice. Just a quick one, guys. For people asking questions in chat, we'll do a Q&A or whatever at the end of the stream. We've got a couple more topics left to go, and so next topic up we have is maps. What do we think of the maps in the game as of now? There was a couple of maps for all game modes. You know, personally, I love the design.
I have a simple question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What game mode did you guys play in the beta?
I did all of them.
Like, did you play like all of them? Dutchman, Elpern, you?
I also played all of the game modes.
Yeah, I'm a scumbag, so I only played 1v1s. But yeah.
Yeah, so let's start with you, Currahee. What did you make of the maps? If you managed to play a few.
I played 1v1, 2v2 mostly, and I think 1 3v3. I would say they definitely are the best in 1v1 and 2v2. I really think they were good from a point of view, from a also competitive point of view. I think that my biggest worry was that they said that they want to focus on, now I missed the word in English, horizontal, I think is the word. Yeah, like height.
Vertical, opposite.
Vertical. Yeah. Thank you. Vertical. And I think that is definitely not an issue. Like in Cold 1, we had the hills and stuff like that, and it was not working very well. And in Cold 3, I'm happy. Okay, of course, one thing, and this is one thing what people don't really are used in Go 2 is house fighting, like the breaching. We didn't talk about breaching.
Breaching, yeah.
Breaching and everything. So this is definitely something that people will have to adapt. But all in all, I mean, I think one thing is they all look beautiful. I think the map look beautiful with the little signings and the little parks and stuff like that. I think that was really done well. Am I wrong? But were there any desert maps?
Yep, there was quite a few desert maps.
The airfield, Tunis.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Tunis,
okay.
yeah.
Not in 2v2 though. Tunis, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think the maps are good.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially that 3v3 or a 4v4 map, the airfield one was good because it was very wide, which allowed for a lot of potential flanking on the extreme left and right flanks, which is quite nice. The resource layout was good. The 1v1 maps that I tried personally, I thought were good, especially the desert one, Tunis, I think it was called. What was the other one called with the
Wind Beaches?
Wind Beaches, was it?
Yeah, Twin Beaches.
Twin Beaches, yeah. That was alright as well. Yeah, I'm not sure about the... There's a lot of houses, I know, around the middle point, but they don't seem to be too strong either way, which was nice. Yeah, I think it was fine, to be honest. Interesting layout, because you had the 2 munitions points at the top as well, and then... yeah, I don't know. I think it was good. Personally, yeah, I'm happy with the maps. Maybe the 4v4 map. There was a big 4v4 map with a huge city on the left-hand side and more open on the right. So I guess, it was a bit of flexible gameplay there for people, who want to play on, who prefer urban combat to rural. But yeah, overall, I'm quite happy with the maps. I hope we see a lot more, though, because we only saw a couple for each game mode. So definitely want a lot more. And, yeah.
They confirmed the 14 maps for launch, I think. I don't know how many were in the tech test, but it certainly wasn't 14. So
no, it was maybe like 10 tops.
Yeah,
maybe even less.
I think it was less than that, but there's a few
two
more.
per game mode probably.
Two per game mode,
yeah.
But of course, I think just as long as they have a decent enough, and I think they were decent enough, just to get the game going, and then they can add more, and hopefully we get community maps as well. I think our next topic is modding after this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And,
I still want to add something on the maps.
Sure. So there's gonna be community-made maps as well, of course.
Red Bull coming through.
Red Bull again. Red Bull in the desert.
For me, there was one issue.
There's gonna be
with a. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Dutchman.
For me, there was one issue with one of the 2v2 maps. I think it's the big city map, not the fields map, but the big city map. Is if the southern spawn, if you want to get out of the base there, you either have to go up a hill or you have to cross a bridge. And if you look on the north-hand side, it's all flat terrain and pretty easy to get out of your base. So there was one game where I was pinned in the base, and now with the added verticality damage, it was impossible to push out from the south side. So for me, one of those 2v2 maps was like really imbalanced in that manner. If you ever got pushed back to your base once, it was really hard to get out.
Gotcha. No, I didn't experience that personally on that map, but I can see how that can be an issue. And yeah, I agree with you. That probably needs to look at.
I think the main issue in the 1v1 maps was the base defenses. They were like inverted. So usually they covered a lot of the areas outside the base, like almost extending all the way to the cutoffs. But meanwhile, if you just get past that, there's actually no base defenses covering the actual base. So since there were so many light vehicles that could like traverse, and you got the vehicles that can tank ride, you got tank riding. So it's quite easy to just transport your infantry behind the enemy base defenses, and then you can just kind of kill them there. That's something I very much noticed. Like DevM did that a couple times versus me, and it's like no base defenses, so it makes it very easy to kind of cheese like that.
Sorry,
so he could win himself.
Can I just come back to one thing? We didn't really talk about breaching, did we? I mean, what do you guys think of that?
Breaching?
As a thing.
Breaching in multiplayer, I've used it only once successfully, and it's been only used once successfully against me in like 50 hours. So I don't think breaching is going to be a big thing in multiplayer, because the reaction time is just too quick for that. You can easily get out. But then again, I also didn't feel like I needed breaching, because the standard anti-building tool, a flamethrower, is easily accessible for all the factions, and I think that's the most important part.
I'm personally glad that it's in the game. It's a nice addition because it definitely you've got a way to force somebody out of a building if you want them out. Because if you do the action, your squad goes in there, and the enemy squad, if they still stay in there, they take damage and they're forced out of the building. Beforehand, that wasn't the case. So in any previous game in Company Heroes 2, what you would do is you would if that low health squad's getting low, you just swap in the other squad before that squad got out of the building, so you could still retain control of a house. Now it's just a way to permanently get rid of somebody out of a position, which I think is good, and we didn't have that before. So overall, I'm a fan of breaching now, but I do like Dutchman says, I don't feel like in proper competitive scene, it's not going to be too useful because it takes so long to do that to start a breaching mechanic. So people are going to see it coming and they're just going to jump out of the house to avoid the damage. But yeah, it's just a nice way to just make sure someone's not in a building.
Actually, yeah, I thought it was decently useful. Like in certain very important buildings, like in Road to Tunis, you have those center structures, right? And they kind of work both ways. That if your opponent have them, you'd probably rather have them yourself. And the breaching really it forces the trade, right? You basically just switch because they are forced out either way. And I don't know if there is a very important structure like that, I could see the ability being useful. I think it was very underused in the tech test because we're all Code 2 players and breaching wasn't a thing.
True.
So, I think it's something we'll get used to.
One last thing on that. I know when you do a breaching mechanic, as I said, it takes a long time to do. Can you cancel that breaching mechanic? Did anyone try cancel doing the action of a breach mid? Can. Because I can imagine someone jumping out of the house, then lobbing a satchel charge or a big grenade back to the house that they just lobbed in. As that allied squad or whatever, the enemy squad jumps into that house after it's done the breaching mechanic, they instantly eat maybe a satchel charge and lose the whole squad in the house. That's one thing that might see an issue happening with the breaching mechanic that I've not tested, but. Yeah, I
didn't try canceling, but I know if your opponent leaves the structure while the bar or the it's being breached, you actually get your resources back and you get the building, which I think is kind of cool because if they jump out, you at least get the garrison, and if they stay there, they take damage and you pay the munitions, right? So you don't pay any munitions unless they don't take damage. So I think you can kind of that means you can basically breach every single structure you see because you'll get the munitions back if they leave. So I think it is a decent ability because it makes it quite a bit useful. Because that way you don't actually waste your resources if your opponent reacts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up because we have talked about abilities and stuff, and I was like,
yeah, sure, it's fine. Yeah, no, I was originally.
We were talking about maps and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're going on modding now. Yeah, what do we want to talk about modding? Because I know that Relic has said that modding will be available on launch, and I did have a chat to Jane252, who some of you might know. He's the guy that has made the Company Heroes 2 cheat mods for the game, where you can. It's been great as a content creator because you can go in there, spawn units in, do speed ups. You can take really good screenshots because you can get rid of the UI and stuff like that, and do some good content creation through that. And I think he's planning on doing something like that for launch, which would be amazing for content creators. And people who just want to test things out amongst friends or against the AI. So I'm really excited that modding is coming on launch because it took a long time for it to come in for Company Heroes 2. Though I don't know what extent modding is going to be in Code 2. Will we be able to change the skins on infantry, for instance? Because Code 2, you could only really do the you had people had customized skins for vehicles, but not for infantry. And they also had their own little game modes. Like I think you had Spearhead, a couple other things. So yeah, what do you guys want to see from modding?
Well, maps is a given, like we previously mentioned. I think community maps have always been better than the Relic made maps, because we can kind of fine tune it depending on what we want the map to be, right? If we want it to be a big slugfest, or if we want it to be a competitive masterpiece, you can kind of do that. And meanwhile, Relic they have a larger base of players, right? Users, but you can specify the maps for different purposes as a community. So I think that's a given. But yeah, I don't know if they mentioned anything about full conversion mods, like you mentioned. Don't know if that's in there for launch, but yeah, maps will certainly be there.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt this, but this Flappy, I guess you guys know him maybe. He's a very good 4v4 player, and he says I mean, he's maybe trolling a little bit there, but he says X is gonna be OP again, just like Code 2. Some my head when even play the game. When OP X says OP MG42. I don't think the MG42 was that strong, Flappy. Or are you just trolling us?
He's trolling.
SMH my head.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
That's right.
I thought you were serious there, Flappy. Yeah, the modding is of course something. Of course, I absolutely agree. And as a tournament organizer, I also wait a little bit more of the community maps. Maybe the relic maps are already good enough. But of course, this is where we can really get into talk with the players and really get into it. I mean, especially in 2v2, I would say a lot of the relic maps were bad, to say.
At launch,
And pardon?
At launch, yeah, I believe they were like Pripyat River and stuff like that. If people remember that.
Yeah, Pripyat River. Yeah, exactly.
There's a bunch.
There's a bunch, and I think when we were like working together. Oh, sorry, I have to say hi, Teddy. And then when we were working with Scotch and other people and stuff like that, we really got some good maps out, Belgorods and those stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. To get the community maps out. When we talk about modding, though, we also have to talk about RNG. Is there any RNG ability you think should be modded out? Because Master League, of course, had the Master League mod, which removes like engine. No, sorry, you guys know that. Well, what things? Abandoned
and main gun crits. Main gun that's crits. Not in Code 3, so.
So basically, that's out of the game. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think
I'm curious to see whether they can. Whether they can mod ourselves a observer mode in. That would be nice.
Yeah, observer mode, replays, I don't know what they could do, but something like that. Actually, on the subject of abandon being missing, abandon mechanic being missing, I kind of liked it when watching a tournament because, or something like a competitive match, because it was like, oh my god, that's such a huge swing. I know it's huge RNG, but in Code 2, I don't think it was well implemented. Would you guys agree with this? If it was like a very risky, high expensive thing to like guarantee an abandon if you were to put it off, would you like to see it return into the game at all? Or
it kind of is in the game, but in a way better implementation in my mind, which is of course the recovery vehicles, where you have a unit that specifies in turning all the vehicle wrecks into basically abandons. I think that's good. I think that's better than having a 5% coin flip happening and deciding the match. So I think like that's how it's done well implementation. It's like the recovery vehicle in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree with you there for sure, definitely, because then it's risky doing it. You're spending a lot of resources to recover something as well, and the vehicle when it is recovering is vulnerable. And the other player
you can still have those cool tournament moments where like, oh my god, Lovenest is making a recovery vehicle, that can still happen. So.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So especially like if like someone dived your base, lost their Sherman or whatever, if you were playing DAC, and then they were able to, or a Tiger, and you were able to recover it, and that would be absolutely insane. That would be cool to see. I think is the Twitch chat still working for you guys? Because it's stopped working for me just now.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, I think the things.
I'm a bit short on time though, so maybe we can go on with the next.
So last topic is topic 5, which is Master League. Matt's announced his new Master League system. I don't know if you guys have seen his video, but I'm very impressed by what he's shown us all there with the setup with the different leagues kind of thing. He's got like a Master tier, I think it was a Challenger tier, and then an Improvement tier. So and then it'll be going through the months, and you can get points and go up and go down depending on where you are. What do you guys think about Matt's new designs plans for tournaments and stuff?
I personally didn't read up on it, so I have no opinion.
Have you not studied Dutchman? God dang it.
I've been studying to become a doctor.
I will switch over here so I can show what people are curious about. Let me just switch over here. So here is the board here. So you can see this is just like a a demonstration. This is, for purposes. This is what an example of what it could look like. So you can see here's the ranks and stuff. So let's say we go into a first match. You've got Master Tier here, where you've got the top 8 seeds play against each other. If they win, they get more MLR, Master League rankings. So they stay up in this tier if they go down. So let's follow, for instance, Orange Pest. Orange Pest loses to Asherblat. He comes down and faces against Von Asten. Unfortunately, he loses again there. So then I think he is then knocked down to Prospect tier. So actually 4 tiers, sorry. Master League, Challenger tier, Prospect tier, and Improvement tier. So Orange Press is not doing very well here at all, unfortunately. And he loses to Angry Dutchman as well. So his ranking, from going all the way up from Master tier, for instance, goes all the way down. But he's definitely got opportunities here to fight and get back, come back up to the tier if he does well later on, for instance. So there is real life story, yeah. So I'm thinking it's really cool with the way the system goes. You can go up in leagues, you can go down. So for instance, let's see. Okay, I guess Angry Dutchman here. So where does he end up? So he loses to Creative Name in this example. Loses to Von Ivan, but he beats Orange Pest. So he gains 18 MRR. So he started with 870. He finishes with 856, so he should still probably remain in Challenger tier. So if we go go forward one more month, and yes, he's still there in that tier, right? So the higher MLR you have, the higher tier you might be in, depending on everyone else's MLR or whatever. So I think this is really good. And if we go back to here, sorry. You can see that Matt's putting some examples of cash, so you can see that certain positions are, guaranteed cash. A lot more people we're going to be winning cash prizes as well, which is quite nice. So, what do you guys think?
I think it's good that he spread it out more.
It's going to be interesting though to see how the tournaments actually function with no replays, etc. It's going to be an interesting month, the first couple of months for sure, and I do hope it really does come down to replays and observer mode over and over, I feel like. But the fact that that's not in the game is really, really bad. It's definitely the worst part about the game. Of course, no matter if you're a content creator or not, having replays is just so important because, after a match, the game is gone forever. And yeah, I'm going a bit off topic here. But imagine if there's a cheater, you can't check that. If there's a bug, you can't check that. If there's a unit you didn't know about your opponent's using, you can't go back and check that. So I think it's really bad that that's not in. But
I think everybody
still looking
agrees.
forward to tournaments.
I think everybody agrees that this is a thing that Relic really has to address as soon as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really, as soon as possible. Of course, tournament you can do it with Discord screen sharing. You can do observer mode and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he is a magician on this stuff. I mean, he's really, really, really amazing with those spreadsheets and with those stuff. It's gonna be very interesting to see, and I really hope that it opens up the 1v1 scene for more casual players, maybe.
Yep.
Because that would be good, so that it's not like a super elite group who just battle it out every time. Because in Code 2, it was like the feeling that it was always like the top 50 players get it, and that's it. So I would like to see that more. And of course, my thing is always the team games. I really would like to see some league system as well for team games, because that is something we never had in Code 2 or never had in Code. So I'm working on that as well. So we will see. How it goes.
Hopefully we get replays in as soon as possible and observer mode. It's a shame that Relic have not prioritized this at launch, because I feel a while ago, I remember when I was in Vancouver and talking to the guys, they were saying that I think it was like 90% or something of the player base or something just play campaign or something, a really, really shocking stat that was just like, look, this amount of people just play comps, just play the campaign, and a very small percentage do multiplayer. So I respect that they're focusing on that, but I really want them to, because now they've done the campaign and everything and all that, they should be working full steam ahead now on replay modes and the spectator mode and observer mode. Spectator is also great as well for learning, for people who want to watch and cast replays. Dutchman, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm really waiting for it. I think it's a really bad thing that's not in, and especially with the current price mark for the game, I think it should be in. So you're not buying something, you're making an investment and hoping that stuff comes down the line. And I think that's the reverse way of doing stuff.
Yeah, well, we know it is coming. They've already mentioned it, but it's like, is it gonna be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year?
I would say 3 to 6 months. That's
yeah, but we don't know, right?
Yeah, they've not said, which is worrying, because if there's no kind of...
we need some assurance there, I think.
Yeah, Relic will not give us that, because they will want to wait, of course, with the first month. I hope 6 months to a year. That is my hope.
Yep. And I guess Elpern, you said you need to head off in a minute, or you?
Yeah. So do we do Q&A?
Yeah, I was thinking if you've got time for Q&A, we'll do a quick Q&A, guys. If anyone's got any questions for us regarding Co3, you know, what our thoughts about the game, I think we might have not discussed yet so far, feel free to leave your questions in chat right now. And after this, I'll be going into doing some my usual viewer game sub-Saturday stuff. So stick around. If anyone's got any questions, now's your time. And while we wait for people to put questions in chat, yeah, I think, 23rd of February is the release date for Co3. If you guys are looking to support content creators purchasing Co3, there should be a link somewhere. I don't know, Dutchman or Elpern, if you've got that to hand, if you want to put that in chat. Because I've changed mine.
You can do... I have... what's the code? You can put in a code. It's Elpern, and that's it. I don't have the link.
Yeah. Were there any opportunities in the unit roster for the factions you guys wanted to see? Oh, that's a good question.
We did mention that, like no snipers, no tank destroyer for UK.
Yeah.
I think those are the obvious ones, right?
But anything like, because I'm thinking he's probably thinking something like from Co1 we had some really unique units like the Vampire Half-Track, if you remember that, which was cool. We could spawn Goliaths and stuff. Also the Munitions Half-Track could spawn Goliaths. The Vampire Half-Track could like funnel and steal resources if you snuck it into an enemy's back line. Personally, I would love to see some of those units make a return. RJ saying maybe the Kangaroo for the Brits. It was kind of unbalanced and broken thing in Co1. It was an annoying cheesy strat people did, but I was laughing. But it could maybe be reintroduced and maybe be a bit more balanced if for Co3. I don't know. What do you guys think? Any kind of unit or any kind of thing in the World War II arsenal for maybe Italians, Germans, Brits, or the Americans that you haven't seen yet in a Company Heroes franchise that you think, oh, I want to see it?
I mean, the thing with Co3 is that I really don't understand Relic's point of view there with the tech-wise, because I studied history, so military history and stuff. So, I mean, they said, like, it's locked to 42, 43, which, of course, means Tiger is, like, the heaviest tank, Churchill, of course, and stuff. So, no Pershing, of course, no Firefly, by the way, Hans, because you said Firefly. Firefly came just 1944, so that's technically not a problem.
Thing is, though, we've got the Black Prince, though, haven't we? Which makes no sense. So,
yes,
yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I just said, exactly. So, Relic... logic. I mean...
Yeah, but I think that both DAC and Brits are based on the North Africa campaign, which isn't 1944, so...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, I mean, it's I think... the more interesting question is, and of course it will happen, what new faction will come? And that is really, really the one thing that I think Relic has not made any discussion about. Oh, Ostrup. Teddy says Ostrup. No, but what other factions coming? Are the Soviets coming?
I think if we think about down the line, I think we probably would want to see.
Camera just fall down.
No worries. We probably want to see. I would love to see the Japanese faction. I don't know how they would do it, but it would be lovely to see, a Japanese faction make an appearance in the Company Heroes franchise. It has been done in other RTS games. As we've seen them add the Black Prince, so they could do things that weren't, give the Japanese some kind of maybe prototypes or whatever, which make it more balanced or something. You have the campaigns maybe historically accurate, but for multiplayer and stuff, I'm totally happy to give Japanese, for instance, units that weren't really mainstay units or even prototypes personally, just because it'd be just lovely to see a different Axis faction other than the Germans I'm finally happy to see that we're seeing Italian units, even though they're not their own faction. But you know, I can live with that because they feel right in the way that they've been implemented personally. And also, you could maybe do a Pacific, you know, a US Pacific themed faction, or maybe even a British themed Pacific, you know, kind of that Mediterranean themed faction for Singapore or whatever. You can have that kind of campaign as well. Yeah.
We got a question here from Schmock89. You may have missed it, but is there a ladder in Code 3? We know from the tech test that there is matchmaking, but it's more similar to Code 2, and then ranked game modes will happen later down the line with seasons and stuff, which they have confirmed, but we don't know when that arrives.
Start, yeah.
Yeah. But matchmaking is in, yes, but not a specific ranked game mode.
Courage, if you could just put even if you're not got your camera working, if you just put it on, mate, because it's messed up the names and stuff. Sorry.
Oh, I'm Currahee now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be Elpern.
How long will the Code 2 player base be active for? We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be players still, but I doubt it will be as active as it is right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of Code 2 people will migrate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, you know, especially someone like myself, who's played the Company Heroes 2 franchise for the last 10 years or so, has gone a bit, it's gotten stale. We're all looking and wanting something fresh, I guess, and that's, you know, why I'm going to be probably full steam ahead. Also, you know, for the competitive scene, tournaments, you know, and prize money and all that kind of stuff is going to be with Code 3, so all the competitive players, I imagine, are going to switch over from Code 2 to Code 3. Though I do imagine some people might stay on Code 2 after the release of Code 3 because the balance in Code 3 might be so bad that they're like, no, screw this, I just want to play something that's actually balanced, so that might happen. And you might get the odd tournament for Code 2 down the line for like nostalgia's sake, I think. But I think for the most part, people are going to go to Code 3. And I think a lot of actually even Code 1 players that were just die-hard Code 1 players are actually keen on Code 3 as well, which is a very good sign for the franchise. I've talked with Pepsi, Smoko, some other you know well-known Company Heroes 1 players, and they are enjoying Company Heroes 3, which is really nice to see because I know a lot of the Code 1 player base did not enjoy Code 2 at launch and never touched it again. So that's
oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you said that they are coming back.
Yeah, it sounds like they're coming back, which is nice. So hopefully, you know, the old guard will come back. Chicken Wing says,
yeah, that's definitely a good thing.
I started playing Code 2 multiplayer recently, so I think I will play both depending on what I'm feeling. Soviet mains will still play Code 2 till the servers go down. Maybe. Yeah, there will be no Soviet factions, so maybe people just want to keep playing Soviets. That's fine. Though, yeah, you know, again, quickly on the subject of other factions, I imagine, you know, seeing another iteration of the Soviets for Code 3 is probably a possibility. Would be interesting to see, but I think, you know, for the time being, I think Relic are just going to focus down on 4 factions and just keep adding, in terms of units, they'll just keep adding new battle groups. I don't think I expect to see a 5th faction.
Yeah.
I think a faction is quite far away. We even know that the first expansion, it's completely single player, so a new faction is going to take quite some time, I would reckon.
But it will come at some point. This is what I mean. I mean, in like 2-3 years, we will have another faction, I think.
For sure.
2-3 years.
We also know that there will be more battle groups, like Hans mentioned. We could see that in the tech test. There's a UI where you can like select battle groups. So there's 3 for each faction starting off, but we'll get more down the line. Now, if those will be free, like the last couple of ones were in Code 2, or if they'll be pay to win, we'll see.
Yeah,
hopefully Relic learned a lesson.
Touchy
from Code
subject
2,
there, but you know.
Yeah. But we'll see. Hopefully they've learned a lesson with Code 2, I think. No more Tiger Ace.
Yeah, I think they will make it. I think they will make it very strong. I think it just works out because, you know, people want to play new things, and of course it makes more sense that the cool new thing is also cool and strong. You know, so we have to adapt to that thing.
Yeah.
So in answer,
I'm just worried. You know. Well, we'll see.
In answer to Puggett's question, Yugori and Angry Dutchman said 50k, so that's how many people we expect, well, they expect to see for the peak population when the game launches. What about yourselves, Currahee and Elpern? What's your estimates there? How many players, thousands of players will be playing?
How many thousands of players for the launch?
Yeah, how many do you think?
You mean peak or average?
No, 50k is too much. 20.
20?
25 maybe. Yeah, it's not that popular. Like
I'm
in the
gonna-
United States, it's not that popular. I think the Russian market is completely out because Relic blocked that, so Russians are not allowed to play it.
That's a good point
That's
because
a
of the
big
whole
market.
issue, political
Yeah,
drama going
yeah,
on right now.
Yeah, I don't know about Chinese and all these people. I don't know how popular it's there, but I would say 20, 25.
I'm gonna make an educated guess and say, we know there's been 150k players playing during the tech test. Of course, that's not all that's not pre-orders. Of course, that was free.
Yeah, free
We also
people
had
picking it up,
130. We had 130 peak for Code 2, and Code 2 was free. I think 130k.
Yeah.
130k.
Yes,
Yes.
consecutive when it was free the
Really?
first time. Yep.
No, I don't think we'll be hitting even close those numbers. I could see 50, but I could also see 20. I
Yeah.
think the average is, however, more important the first month. So if we could beat Age of Empires with 20k players the first month, I think that would be really good.
Yeah, I think if we can retain 20k player base, I think that would be good. And I think probably launch will probably be something like 40k, and then 20k, which will probably drop to 10 if I'm honest with myself. A couple months onwards, we'll see. It depends. It all depends on how well the game runs on people's engines. I don't know for you. Actually, something we didn't discuss is performance on the beta. Real quick, for me, it ran really well. Some people I heard it didn't run so well, but I think for the majority of people, it ran really smooth and getting high FPS, which is a massive improvement over what Code 2 is currently and was when it first released. So I think that's definitely a good sign there. So hopefully people will be able to enjoy the game with good performance on launch.
Yeah, the optimization was great. I never crashed. I know a lot of people also crashed, but I never crashed.
Right. Last questions, guys. Anyone?
I think performance for me was overall very good, but they fucked up something with the patch they had on like Thursday or Friday where I don't know, guys, if you ever played Age of Empires 4 on release, but when there was water on the screen, your frame rate went from like 100 to 12. And that actually happened for me as well in Code 3.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like fire in Code 2, where you looked at fire and it would just drop the frames massively. That's interesting why it's now water. What's going on?
That happened to me after they patched it, and I don't know if it was a setting that got reset after the patch. That might have been the case, or if they actually changed something, but my performance definitely got worse during the tech test after that.
Well, look, anyone else? Are they going to have DLC? Yeah, we just discussed that. I imagine it's pretty much guaranteed. General said that
I have one question. Have you guys played single player in Combat Heroes? Like, are you guys any single player? Because I never really played single player, to be honest.
I did try a bit personally. I'm more of a fan of the DAT campaign. I think I might eventually play the Allied one, which is more of like a Total War style, moving units around on map. I'm personally not keen on that. But I think the DAT campaign, which is more linear, which is more like the traditional Company Heroes campaign, where you go from one mission to the next, which is kind of, I kind of like that because it's more story driven. It's got more of a, I don't know. That's me personally, and I did play it, and I like the DAT one. The DAT one seemed pretty decent, so yeah, hopefully, the campaigns will be good and people will be interested. We're a little bit worried though, because if you remember back Code 2's campaign, when it launched, angered a lot of the Russians because of certain things that went on that campaign. It didn't have good reviews for the Russians. It got review bombed quite a lot. Hopefully, Relic have learned their lesson from that. And there's not any, because I think we all said, let's focus on heroics, epic battles and things like that. Let's stay away from war crimes and all that kind of stuff, because that's what Company Heroes is about. We're all about like the focusing on heroes. We're talking about heroes, right? So you want to see epic battles, or like Band of Brothers stories, things like that from both sides of the conflict, and hopefully that is what we'll see.
Yeah, it's of course a very tricky thing. It's going to be interesting how they're going to address Rommel, of course, and stuff. But yeah.
I haven't played much single player at all, and I don't think I will at launch either. I'll just focus on multiplayer, but I know later down the line I'm sure I'll try it, and I'm gonna make an attempt for the speedrun competition.
Speedrun, yeah.
Will certainly happen.
They should have a ladder for that.
Hopefully.
Ladder for speedrun.
Yeah, there's a Code 2 speedrun ladder. There is. I'm on it.
Yeah, there is.
Second place.
No, I didn't even realize there was one. I did for the Code 2 campaign. I did the conscript only run, where I played the whole campaign with just conscripts. It was quite challenging, actually, but it was fun.
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, I think we'll
Uh,
probably leave it there, guys. Thank you
I
so
think-
much, Currahee, Angry Dutchman, and Elpern for joining me for another episode. It's always been a pleasure to have you guys on the show.
You're welcome.
And to collaborate with you guys. So it's been fun. Hopefully we can do it again. I guess the next time we do like a session like this will probably be after release. Now maybe
After
we
the
can
launch.
be thinking
Yeah.
about like we'll discuss the reception.
March, April.
Sometime maybe mid-March or something. I don't know when we'll do it, but we'll be discussing all the
Sounds
things
good.
and maybe probably things like balance and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks guys. If you've got to head off, take care, and
Thank you.
we'll see you soon.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thanks for
Bye bye.
having me.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. But before I enter down, I know many of you have been asking me about where to buy Company Heroes 3, among other keys, online, while also supporting my channel. And now you can. Check out Fanatical. To get access to Fanatical, all you got to do is scroll down on one of my videos, in the About section, click here, or on this link down here in the comment section, and you're taken to the Fanatical website. Fanatical website has amazing Trustpilot reviews, lots of customers, and efficiently licensed games. So not only are you supporting me when you purchase a game from here, you're also supporting the developers and publishers, and it's generally cheaper on this website than it would be on Steam as well. Let's just have a look at Company Heroes 3 specifically. So if you type in Company Heroes 3 at the top, you are then brought to this page. You can see it's 12% off here. On Steam, it's about 50 quid. So you're saving yourself a bit of money there. You can see the different launch editions. You've got this edition here, the launch one, or the premium edition. And you can also, which I love about this website, is going to over here on the view all and seeing whether the game key will activate in your country or not. So you can check before you buy, which is great. They also do some nice offers as well. As you can see, you get 5% off your next order if you purchase Company Heroes 3. So yeah, guys, if you decide to use the website, thank you so much. No stress if not. It's just another way. If you wanted to support the channel, that's how to do it. Thanks for watching again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.